What's up, everyone? My name is Matt James. Welcome to Generation Bitcoin. Today, I'm here with Amir Zendehnam. How are you doing today, Amir?
Hey, what's up, Matt? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Great to have you. Let's start with some backstory of Amir. So, he's the founder and CEO of Spekr, a super sick CBD company, as well as a libertarian and Bitcoiner OG. You and I met back in college around 2013 when Bitcoin was about $100. And I'm glad that we're able to reconnect after all these years. Tell me a little bit more about your background and how long you were involved with the libertarian community and what you did within that community.
So my background in the libertarian world is in 2007 is when I first became a libertarian, and through Ron Paul, through that 2008 Ron Paul presidential campaign. Then in 2012, I continued my activism, and I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I wanted to figure out a way to get involved in the next Ron Paul campaign. So as soon as he announced that he was running for president, I was trying to figure out how to grow his campaign in California, which is arguably one of the hardest places in the world to grow the message of liberty, because Californians generally love to do the exact opposite of liberty. But that's around when I met you. I was one of the head organizers for the Ron Paul campaign in California in 2012. We were running the Liberty HQ in Venice. That was pretty much the central operational point for California with the campaign. After that, I continued my activism for a future free world in the Republican Party, and I was, in all areas of the Republican Party. I was a chairman, I was a state delegate, I was on the board of the Republican Liberty Caucus, which is an amazing organization. And after 2016, when I had to run for re-election, I decided I don't want to do politics anymore. Shout out to Ron Paul, because it was an answer that he gave me at a YAL event that made me just exit for now. I'm going to come back to politics one day, but ultimately it just wasn't making me happy. And I just realized that if I really want to make efficient, positive, drastic global change in the world, I should practice what I preach and go do it in the market, which is, persuading people through high quality and low prices, and efficiency over government, which is forcing people or else, so...
Definitely.
As a result of that, I went full-time in the cannabis industry. I've been in the cannabis industry for over 10 years, but that's when I decided to go full-time, which eventually transitioned into my health optimization company that focuses on cannabinoids like CBD, Spekr. And I have had Spekr for over 3 years now. And Spekr has been a cryptocurrency friendly business since I launched the company over 3 years ago, which means that you can use cryptocurrency to buy your products on the Spekr website. So
awesome.
Through there, I'm just trying to spread the message of freedom in any positive, healthy, loving way, whether that's through health, fitness, ingredients like product formulations. I formulate all of the Spekr products as well. So yeah, it's all about freedom for me. Everything I'm doing, whether it's in politics or in the market, it's with the goal of efficiently bringing about freedom in our lifetime.
For sure, man. I definitely agree with you. I understand what you mean. Like, participating in the market, providing a good or service is really the way to go. I definitely agree with that. I remember back in the day we were Ron Paul definitely got us both into this movement, and I remember when he came to UCLA, that was one of the highlights. That was huge. So anyways,
that was one of the big things that I did during the Ron Paul campaign. That was essentially my original idea to bring Ron Paul to my college. And
yeah, that was huge.
Yeah, it was. And let me tell you, Matt, that was such a complicated event to set up. And the amount of people that came was so unexpected. We only had a few weeks. The campaign literally gave us about 2 weeks time. And in 2 weeks, it was like 7,000 people came. It was so packed. So that was one of the coolest things that I did in the Ron Paul 2012 campaign was helping set that up. I remember
people were up in the trees trying to see. People were all over.
You couldn't get in. They had to, like, there were so many people that they closed the gates, and people were literally, in the trees of liberty is how we called them with that picture, if you remember.
Yeah, that was dope. Well, I'm really happy that we were able to go through that together. Those were some good times. So transitioning on, tell me about how this transitioned into Bitcoin for you, and when you first learned about Bitcoin and why it appealed to you.
Okay, so I found out about Bitcoin in college because that's when I got in the cannabis industry. And so like the 2009, 2010, like right when it came out, aka the only people that actually were using it, generally speaking, were drug dealers or people trying to get drugs, or, like things the government doesn't want you to do, whether good or bad. They don't want you to do it. So
the OGs.
Yeah, like I found out about it not through libertarianism as much as through cannabis. And then at the same time, since I was getting more and more into the liberty movement, then I found out that libertarians were talking about it as well. And I remember when I first found out about it, I didn't want to get into it because I didn't want to add extra heat on myself, because I knew back then it was not a private ledger. So for anybody watching this, the Bitcoin blockchain is not anonymous. It is a public ledger. So
pseudonymous.
Yeah. So your name and your address isn't there, but an address is there and your transaction history is all there. So if they know who that, like, they can figure out who that is if they try hard enough, which the government has done many of times. So I invested in Bitcoin. Like my first Bitcoin transaction is in like January 2014. That's when you can first integrate Coinbase into your bank account. So for me, I was like, all right, it seems like a little more legit now. I won't add heat on me now. So I'm going to get in. And I've been investing since 2014. I'm still dollar cost averaging strong.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember back in the day, I was around that same time as well when I first found out a bit about Bitcoin. Obviously through Silk Road, that was where everyone heard about it through. But back then you had to get it through local Bitcoins. That was quite the ordeal.
Yeah, see, and that was another thing. The first few years, I did look into it, and I was like, yo, this is actually really fucking complicated. And it's really sketch. Like, so I got to meet up with some dude, and I got to give him cash, and he's going to give me a USB drive. And I don't know the dude, like, but I'm going to have my cash on me. That doesn't sound... Yeah. And I don't know this is what I'm thinking when I first heard about this and how you had to get Bitcoin. So
sounds definitely sounds sketchy to that.
Sketches
for sure.
Which you could still do, like the local Bitcoin thing, where you could actually, like, there are websites where you can meet up with people locally and you can exchange cash for
cash.
Yeah. So
cash in the mail or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, yeah, Bitcoin's definitely came a long ways from there. Now we got PayPal and Square and everybody offering it. So moving on,
That's
though,
the
I wanted
crazy
to
thing,
get
yeah.
into yeah. So I wanted to get into the economics a little bit. So
Yeah.
I know Bitcoin and Austrian economics really go hand in hand versus Keynesian economics. So from my experience, the OG Bitcoiners are definitely a lot of the time supportive of Austrian economics. A lot of these people are libertarians, like you and I. So I was wondering, what's your take on that? How are they related? And does Austrian do you have to believe in Austrian economics to hold Bitcoin, or what do you think about that?
I think that being a Bitcoiner will necessarily turn you, or should turn you, if you go down the economics rabbit hole, into an Austrian. Because the Austrian school of economics is premised by methodological individualism. So it explains Bitcoin to you in a very true way. So, for me, I found out about the Austrian school and Bitcoin at about the same time. And it wasn't that hard for us to really understand that, because through the Ron Paul days, we were all about end the Fed, and we learned about the Austrian school and the central banking. And I mean, the Austrian school of economics is arguably a school created as a critique of central banking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Austrian business cycle theory is literally a critique of central banking. So, but it's things like within the Austrian school, say, subjective theory of value that is completely different from other economic schools, like labor theory of value. So if you're in the Bitcoin world, you necessarily will see that, yes, the labor theory of value does not work here. So, this is extremely subjective in how this value is set here. So what does that mean, the Austrian school is something that when you're learning about Bitcoin, I implore people to become proficient in the Austrian school of economics, because it will benefit you in learning more about cryptocurrency, because that is the school that's essentially tied to the theories that make Bitcoin what it is. It's not to say that the Austrian school is primarily like it has to be this free market economic, thing. But again, the entire school is arguably based off of a critique of the exact same thing Bitcoin is trying to fight. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We wanted to end the Fed for a while, and here's our perfect solution. Ending the Fed can be done over time by offering an alternative that they can't stop, right? So that's the beauty of it, for sure.
I think it's beautiful that the libertarian world essentially didn't even have to use the word libertarianism to get all of these millions of people around the world onto the message of freedom through cryptocurrency. So that's beautiful. We literally never had to talk about who will build the roads, or the word libertarianism, which throws a lot of people off and, pushes people away when they hear that word. So that's the beautiful thing, is that Bitcoin normalized a lot of these concepts that otherwise are not accessible to many people, because, I always said this. You're not going to get a free society until you can prove to people that the free society will benefit their lives and profit their lives more than the slave society that we're currently living in. So What Bitcoin does is it provides an example for that exact type of person that doesn't give a shit about who will build the roads or whatever they want to throw in there when you talk about libertarian philosophy. Yeah. And that's the thing about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is philosophical, but it's also so many other things, you know? It's like all the computer programming aspects of it, you know? Yeah.
It really is amazing how many people are in this movement now. And, you know, libertarian was such a fringe thing. And Bitcoin,
you couldn't even say the word before. It was like a bad word. It was, you know, it was like saying the word Republican. But now it's so cool because the same people that were talking shit to me about libertarian philosophy are now coming to me and asking about cryptocurrency, and there's no debate anymore. It is necessarily true. Yeah. So that is a massive shift in the conversation for a free world where they're not debating your premise anymore. They're trying to learn from you. It's not a debate anymore. They're like, teach me your ways.
Yeah. And you're like, you gotta start with the, you know, the economics, the what is money. You gotta really
like, so everything like you pretty much hated on me for the last 10 years, I'm gonna just talk about again.
Exactly, yeah. So it's all the boring stuff that people don't want to talk about.
Right. And that's the thing. It's boring for most people because they couldn't find a way to profit off of it. I would argue the profit that me and you found through libertarian philosophy was the profit of inner freedom, you know, and we gained from that. And we saw that for other people, they just don't come on as easily. So they need a better incentive, and a lot of people's incentive is money. So what does Bitcoin do? It shows you can make money doing these freedom things.
Yeah, what do you think about that? There's a lot of people that, you know, get involved because of trying to make a quick buck. You know, that's just kind of the way it is, I guess. And a lot of people are trying to get rich quick, and they find out about crypto and they want to find out how to get rich, and it kind of rings them in. Do you think that's that's an okay way of going about it?
No. I think that the majority of people that get wrecked, the majority of the people that come in and out of crypto are exactly those types of people that you just explained.
Yeah, they come in and out. Yeah.
If you're coming into this for a quick buck, you're probably going to get wrecked. Yeah, that's just the data. The data shows that. So I try to impart all my novice friends the same things over and over and over and over again, but you just have to get wrecked. People have to learn the hard way. Humans generally are programmed to learn things the hard way. So
yeah,
get wrecked on a few shit coins, lose 100% of your investment, and then you'll have a different tone, you know? Just like me and you, bro. Lesson. We learned the hard way. You know, we jump in the alt game here and there, you know? Like me, I've transitioned over these years. Like it looked like this. It's like Bitcoin, altcoins, Bitcoin. Like
Same here. Yeah,
right? Because you learn, you're like, this is not worth it. Like if I want to go to the casino, I'll go to the casino.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I always tell everyone to gamble with a very small portion of your portfolio for sure. But
well, and that's the thing. The people who are driven to those types of investments aren't the types of people who are only trying to put 1 to 5% in like we are. So that's the issue. They put 95% into the shit coin and then maybe 1% into Bitcoin. I don't know, if even that.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
It upsets me when I hear people just have Dogecoin and no Bitcoin, and they just got into the space and
see. And that's okay. Like the biggest thing that we saw in 2021 was like, hey, I just got into crypto, and you immediately know when you say, "What did you buy?" You know it's not going to be Bitcoin. When it should only be Bitcoin first.
Yeah.
And you know they're saying everything other than Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And that happens.
They think they're smart.
99. Yeah, they think they're smart. They think they're like beating the system. I'm like, oh, that is so cute. Yeah, we've tried that too. Learn from past failures so you don't have to make the same failures. But again, human nature is not like that currently. So,
yeah. Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to a different subject here. I'm done talking about this Doge shitcoin fest.
Yeah. Whenever we deviate to shitcoins, we need to pull the conversation back to Generation Bitcoin. Cheers.
Cheers. So my next question: what are a few of the most prominent events in history? I know you really like involving history into this whole thing. What are some events throughout history that helps demonstrate why we really need Bitcoin and why we need Austrian economics? So what are some things that come to mind?
So I got my history degree from UCLA, so this is definitely the rabbit hole that I do love the most. Like an instance in history. The best instance in history is the inception of the institution of government is the best example. The inception of the state thousands of years ago is the best example. The best modern day example would be the reason that Bitcoin even came out. I say or it came out around that time, which is the 2008 crash. So, that goes to show you what happens with hardcore central banking. The next example we have is this year, where the governments of the world printed more money, like insane amounts of money, like historical amounts of money out of thin air. And it just goes to show you that, 100 years ago, if they did this, when they did this, we didn't have alternatives that were safe enough. Say like the alternative 100 years ago was gold, and then the government came and confiscated the gold. So that's not a safe haven, so the government has proven that they've taken it, so it's not a safe haven.
Do you see the money printing going up over time, or what do you see? Where do you see that leading?
Historically speaking, and I'm just basing this off of the last 100 years of central banking data. The central banking system is designed in a way to not be sustainable. It is an up and an exit. It's a pump and dump.
Yeah.
Government central banking is a pump and dump. And once you it's just a more long-term pump and dump that could take 500 years. But it's still a pump and dump. You come in, you take everything you can, and then you leave the scraps for whatever else.
Future generations.
Yeah, future generations, exactly.
Yep.
So that's the outlook on that,
Yeah, I agree. I tell people, holding on to Bitcoin is a bet that governments are going to continue printing. And they are. I mean, it's pretty obvious. So.
There is no indicator in history that would show otherwise, unless the government collapses. That is the indicator. The state fails. They print themselves into failure. That is the anatomy of the central banking system.
Yep, I agree. All right, my next question here. Let's go on. I want to talk about. I want to talk about El Salvador. So El Salvador recently adopted Bitcoin as legal tender. I'm sure you know. I'm sure you saw it on the Bitcoin conference. Jack,
yeah, we've
talking about it. A lot. And yeah, so what does this mean for the world? Where do you see this leading? And what do you think about El Salvador? Do you think it's a cover up? Do you think they're really supporting Bitcoin, or do you think there's some other motive there?
What do you mean by cover up? Do you mean like some kind of criminal element that could be, say, drug trafficking or human trafficking type? Okay. This is what I think. This is my angle on it. Historically speaking, the Americas, let's think about the last 100 years, have been in a colonial battle with the United States. This is nothing new that a small country in Latin or Central America, Central or South America, is pulling some move against the US empire. Like, do you not remember when the Latin American countries were like, oh yeah, Edward Snowden, we'll come protect, yeah, Julian Assange, I'll come on in. Like, it's the fuck you to the colonial systems that have destroyed their generations, you know? So in my view, this is kind of like a fuck you to the, US empire by doing this. It's just the next fuck you. But every time that happens in Central and South America, not like most of the time that it happens in Central and South American history, there's going to be some kind of coup, some kind of mass protest, like some kind of overthrow of the government, like replacing of the government, like,
yeah,
the empire ain't happy about that. So could there be other angles? Like, is El Salvador like using it for drug trade? Like, are the governments of Central and South America involved in the drug? Yes. Like, what? It's not like a conspiracy to say that these countries are involved in the illegal drug trade. Yeah. Like, there's plenty of evidence to suggest these things. Actually, fun fact about John McAfee, maybe rest in peace, is that he put, like, when the government in Belize was fucking with him, he started donating computers to secretaries of like government officials, and he was putting his spyware on there to spy on the government of Belize. And he got all this information to like essentially see what they were trying to do to fuck with him. But what he found out was that these top people in the government were involved in drug trafficking and human trafficking. So, that's not a conspiracy theory. Yeah. So that angle, I don't really care about that angle. Like, does the United States government sell black market drugs to make money? Yes. Like, do a shitload of governments in the world use that as a source of funding? Yes. So for me to be like, oh, El Salvador's doing that. Oh, they're so bad. Like, nah, bro. Like, everybody does that, So like, I'm not really going to cap on some normal thing of the anatomy of the state when it's like, yeah, it's a state. Of course they're going to go do things. Of course they're going to go tell you can't do it and then do it themselves. That is the anatomy of the state. So that's my angle, is it's a small Central American country that has been railed by U.S. imperialism for many, many years. And this is essentially a way for these people to potentially flex on some semblance of sovereignty. I mean, El Salvador uses the US dollar as their reserve currency. So they don't even have their own currency.
Yeah.
So this is a revolutionary transition for them because in a sense, they're just like, dude, we don't want to use your fucking dollar anymore. How about that?
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with a sovereign country not wanting to use a foreign currency.
Yeah. It's really a perfect situation. You got 70% unbanked there, and they can't even imagine if you had no way of storing your value. You don't even have a bank account. How do you even live in that situation? It's like it's very clearly a perfect
you don't live in this system that we're
Bitcoin.
living in. That's essentially what it is. You live outside the system that we live in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, who do you think's next? Do you think there's going to be more countries here adopting Bitcoin as legal tender, or do you think this is going to be a one-off and for
I think Panama was talking about it. So it's a domino effect. Me and you have known this for many years. The people who have been in the Bitcoin space know this. And my end goal is for this to be the world reserve currency. So like one country is not enough.
How long will that take, do you think? What's your time zone here? Where do you see
within the decade?
Decade? Where do you see it in where do you see Bitcoin in 5 years from now?
I think that the adoption of Bitcoin is going to be like the adoption of any mass technology like the internet. It took decades before it really became normalized, but we're already over 1 decade in on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So
you think there's an exponential component there? You think
let's go internet timeline here,
Yeah.
Let's say from, like the 60s to the 70s to the 80s to the 90s to the 2000s to the 2010. By the time you got, the internet that's fully accessible to everybody in the world, that's 50-year timeline.
50-year, yeah.
57. Oh my God. I'm like, shit. Yeah, like 60? Yeah, 60-year timeline. Say from like the ARPANET to the internet to today.
Yeah.
60 fucking years, like 70 years at most,
Well, I'm excited. I hope it happens in our lifetime.
That's the thing. Like, I have the outlook that it's not just going to happen in our lifetime. It's going to happen in the near future. Like, the best example is just the technology that we're using in front of us right now. Like, think about this, bro. 10 years ago, if we wanted to do a live stream, first of all, with a 4K camera, I'm streaming with a 4K camera right now. Like, with professional audio, and then this thing right here. Like, how much did this change the world in 10 years, So there were cell phones before, there were touch screens and stuff before, but, it's just like it hits and then it just goes. But the same with, say, Teslas. Nobody wanted to buy a Tesla like 8 years ago. Now it's like a Tesla is the coolest fucking car you can get. Like, oh my God, you got a Tesla. Like it's like a luxury car now, So
yeah,
it goes to show you how fast things change. This is why when I talk about, like the abolition of statism in our lifetime, I'm like, bro, I got like a, like 20 to 50 year outlook on that.
Yeah.
That's not that far, That's the difference between like today and 9/11, which doesn't seem that far.
Yeah.
Like 20 years.
Yep. You think
shit changes fast,
You think when Bitcoin starts becoming adopted more widespread, you think governments are going to be forced to downsize because they have to rely on taxation, which is more transparent and visible to society rather than inflation, which is secret taxing everybody? Think they'll have to downsize?
I believe that technology will make the state obsolete. So it'll be a slow growth where the technologies and industries that government monopolized in the past are now uncontrollably going to be monopolized by, or not monopolized, like open to competition, because now I can make a rocket, you can make a rocket, Now we can get in the space game, right? Say, for example.
Yeah.
So what does that do? It makes an entire area of government obsolete. Like NASA, who the fuck needs NASA when you have these private people that are doing more than NASA? Like, essentially, you need NASA just for the regulatory stuff. Like, they make you work with NASA a lot of the times. You have to do things with the government. So, it's just like things are going to drastically change in this world, and they already are. Like, they're changing so fast that most people aren't actually paying attention to the change. I'm really into trend forecasting, so I'm constantly focusing on like what is today, what was yesterday, and like what will be. It's fun, bro. It's so cool. Like, but yeah, of course, yeah. Life is stressful out here in this current, life that we're living. That's why we're trying to go live in a free world, because it's less stressful. And that's,
Let's go live in the woods.
Thing about like, yeah, the woods that we turn into a technologically superior and advanced world, like we start in the woods and then we create free cities and prove that our models can work better than government. So going into what I was saying, it's like the only thing that we need to make the state obsolete is the functions that government thinks that other people can't do.
Yeah.
As like they do, which every year that goes by, we're proving with one data point after another, like, oh, look, those private militaries over there are way more efficient and they get paid way more.
Yeah.
How the fuck would I use a, like, you know, like, well, those private police aren't shooting people on the street so easily. What a... Yep. It's little things. Or, you know what? Maybe I don't need to go to the hospital for this. Maybe I just have my own remedy.
Yeah. It's
that
all
I can
about
just
the
go
options,
buy
right?
online.
You gotta have options.
What?
You gotta have competition.
We have more options, exactly. So those options create competition, and the state hates competition.
Yeah.
So what Bitcoin does is it directly competes in an arena that the state will kill you for competing in, which is using your own money.
On that,
that's not theirs.
On that note, we definitely want to support Bitcoin, you and I, clearly, and all my viewers,
always,
you know, part of Bitcoin generation, want to support Bitcoin. What do you recommend people do to support the growth of Bitcoin and get it to grow and get people on board? What do you think are some good ways of doing that?
The best thing that you can do as you grow in Bitcoin is educate yourself on all the topics that make Bitcoin: the history, the philosophy, the economics.
Listen to podcasts like this, right?
Yeah, listen to lots of podcasts, connect with people in the industry, learn things like computer programming and cryptography and how these things are made. Again, the full spectrum of everything that has to do with Bitcoin. And I would recommend the least focused part should be the price. That's the part you should focus on the least.
Yeah, I agree.
Go focus on everything else and the money will come.
I agree.
Because if your main focus is the money, you're going to get fucking wrecked.
Yeah, you're going to be stressed.
And you know what? You kind of fucking deserve it too, because it shows you what happens in the free market when there's no daddy government to protect you and tell you what you can and can't do, and you're free to do whatever you want over there.
Yep.
It just goes to show you that if you don't act disciplined and responsible in a free world, you will get fucking wrecked without a safety net. Sorry.
It's true.
There's no government there for you. You chose that, and now you have to pay the consequences for your decision. And I'm sorry if that doesn't sound pleasing to you, but I'm not going to apologize for thinking that survival of the fittest is the way of the world. You know, and that is what promotes advancements in the world, is competition. And there are going to be winners and there are going to be losers.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a winner in this world or in any world, long-term disciplined action is how you do it.
Yep.
So, you know, if you want to get rich quick, go to a casino. If you want to get rich quick in crypto, it's not going to happen. It's the rate of people getting rich in crypto is the same rate of anybody getting rich in any other industry.
It's like penny stocks.
I'm in the cannabis industry. Right? Everybody thinks that if I just start selling CBD, I'm going to get rich. That's not the case. I've been in the cannabis industry for over 10 years. Am I filthy rich right now? Like, no. It takes hard work because I'm playing the long game.
Yeah.
I'm playing the 50-year game here. So, okay, I've been in the cannabis industry and the crypto world for like a decade. That's not the long game. The long game is that 50-year outlook to where when I'm, 50, 60 years old and I'm looking back and then I see, okay, that discipline is what helped me take the right steps to do this in the most efficient manner possible. You can get to the top, but, in other ways. But I'm trying to do it efficiently with as little stress and as much happiness as possible.
Awesome. Yeah, I really think that's cool what you're doing with Spekr and I know you've accepted Bitcoin since the beginning, right? What else are you doing in terms of integrating Bitcoin into Spekr? Weren't you saying that you were looking at doing something else with that? Is there a company that you were working with?
Oh my God. Okay. All right.
You don't have to say it if it's not completed yet.
Let's see. There are like multiple angles on that. So my goal, I guess, like what I will say until it's integrated, is my goal, being a long-term cryptocurrency investor and somebody who has dedicated my life to achieving a free society in our lifetime, is to practice what I preach. And part of practicing what I preach is getting away from the centralized systems that we think coercively control us, like a bank account. We think we need that, but we actually don't now with cryptocurrency.
Yeah, you don't. Yep.
So my goal with Spekr as we transition is to transition it away from as many government structured industries as possible, which includes things like banking.
So you're trying to decentralize Spekr, is what you're saying.
Trying to I'm trying to create as much freedom within the business model as possible in a current slave society without the government killing me.
Yeah, that sounds great to me.
Like I'm doing whatever I can that's not illegal, but it's also something that most people don't think that they have access to. Like, well, how am I going to run my business if I don't have a bank account from Chase or Bank of America or Wells Fargo? Well, fool, there are options here.
Be your own bank.
So, yeah, I'm trying to lead the way on that with my business. And that's a multi-year transition. But as we've talked about, it is something I am logistically figuring out how to do right now. And when I do logistically figure it out, I hope to share it with as many business owners as I can, because especially with me being in the cannabis industry, selling things like CBD, I have been censored at every turn. The payment processors, the banks, like everyone just wants to take the side of government. So the way that I see it, and the way that I look at the world these days, is stop trying to make yourself liked in a room where everybody hates you. Go to the room where everybody likes you. And then start there as your premise, instead of the premise starting with everyone hates you. So the way all of our businesses are structured these days is, I have Spekr, I have to follow these regulations and like use these payment processors. So I have to use this payment processor, and then I have to use the Shopifys of the world, and then I have to integrate this and that. But then they censor you and they block your account and they take your money from you. So what am I doing trying to be liked in a place that doesn't want me to win? Why would I surround myself with people and businesses who are actively fighting against my growth?
Yeah.
It is absolutely irrational.
Screw them.
So, me being a person of action, I'm not going to do what the majority of other people do, which is just complain and then hope that somebody else is going to take care of it. The reason I made my Spekr products is because I was using those products and they sucked. So I realized I can make it better, and I did. So that's what I'm trying to do with what we're transitioning Spekr into now over the next few years. And you know what? It might not work. It might suck.
Yeah.
But if it does work, then I have essentially proven that you can have a business like mine that is a regular, health company, but following very similar standards to how a lot of these cryptocurrency companies protect themselves.
That sounds really great. We're coming up on the end of the time here. Where can people find more about you, your Spekr company? Where can they find your CBD company and your YouTube channel? Where can they find you?
Awesome. So you can find me on all social media platforms. My handle is my first and last name, Amir Zendehnam. And you can check out Spekr at spekrhealth.com. And we ship all across the country in the United States. We ship to a bunch of other countries as well, if your country's government is friendlier to this plant, which a lot aren't. And yeah, you could support us by buying Spekr products with Bitcoin on the Spekr website. When you go to checkout, you can have the option to use Bitcoin and a few other cryptocurrencies, but I prefer Bitcoin.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm really just trying to change the way the world is seen in the business world through these actions of integrating crypto with things like the decentralized finance space. So, that overarching conversation was, Spekr is shifting to DeFi. So if you're a business, start looking into decentralized finance. And as John McAfee said, decentralized finance is going to be the thing that destroys the state. And I completely agree because they literally cannot control it.
Yep. That's exciting.
So if you're listening to this, go look into decentralized finance and learn everything you can about it, because this is granting us human sovereignty on a level that we haven't seen in state history. I don't really know about before, but in modern state history, we have never seen this level of individual freedom.
Yeah, definitely. It's super exciting. Well, it was nice talking to you, Amir. I'm going to go ahead and link your YouTube channel in the comments. So check him out there. And thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much, Matt. You are an epic human being, and I am so glad that we have so many mutual ideas in a world that is so imbalanced. So big shout out to you, and I am wishing you well with lots of success as you continue on this podcast.
Thanks a lot, man.
Love you, bro.
Love you too, man.